Hi, this is Aaron Gross from Grade 5 Yeshiva, preparing you for the Unjumble the Rashi test for Perek Lamed Vav Posel Gimel. This is the actual way the boys have to attack the test that they will be given. So the Rashi is broken up into parts, and each part has a subheading, as you can see over here. There's a Dibra Maskal, a Kasha, a Mocker, Ha'ara, and then there's a Teirutz over here, an answer. Rashi's broken always up into parts, and I've designated these subheadings as the parts that I'm calling for this Rashi. It's not Kodesh Kodashim, it's not absolutely perfect. Some people might give it different names, but the whole idea is that your son should realize that whenever Rashi says something, he's answering questions and bringing things from other sources and making comments on what he's quoting from in order to understand the psukim of the Chumash. So, this is our test over here, and the boys have to unjumble the Rashi. I've already written in the Hebrew over here, as you can see, to make it faster for this video, but your son will have to write in the Hebrew words as well as the English, and I've broken it up into 2, 3, maximum 4 words per line, so I can see the boys actually understand the translations when they're putting it in. Yeah, so here it is. That's the actual test with already the Hebrew written in. So we'll look at our Rashi, and we'll see the first part is a Dibra Maskal, and on the actual test, I've got a Mocker written here, and they're out of order. I've got a Teirutz, and I've got a Ha'ara, and a Kasha, and they're in the wrong order, as you can see, and you have to unjumble them. So the first one in this Rashi is the Kasha. That's the first piece that your son has to be able to identify, and then look for that in the test. And we see that at the bottom over here, I've got the word Kasha, and I've got a little one there just to prompt me, to remind me, but it won't be that number one there, or the Hebrew underneath won't be here. So I'll just put a number one there to unjumble it. So that's number one. That's the Kasha. And then I'd copy from the Hebrew the Kasha. It says Olahalon, and elsewhere Kaira la Machlas. The Torah calls a Machlas. So in the actual test, I'll write the Hebrew Olahalon, and elsewhere Kaira la Machlas, and you have to write the English in as well. So we can do that right now. And elsewhere the Kaira la Machlas. The Torah calls her Machalas. And that's already number one. The Kasha is done now in the test. Now the second section in this test is the Mocker. And I've written that. The boys are not allowed to have this. They're allowed to have this writing in on the test. I've just put it in here, and I've shown this to the boys to make it easier and understandable for them. They'll just have it coloured in, but you won't actually have these subheadings. They'll have to know them by heart. They'll have to recognize it. So that's the Mocker. Matzinav Agaras Midrash Sefer Shmuel. We find in the Midrash of the book of Shmuel, Gimel, Meichalan Lahem, 3 people have forgiven to them. Avonai saying their sins, Gesh and Iskar, a convert who converts, Va'ola Legdol, and one who goes up to a high position, Bahanoisa Isha, and one who marries a woman. So we look for number 2, the Mocker, and there it is right in front of us over here. So I can write in number 2. That's the second part of the Rashi Unjumble, and I've written in the Hebrew already, and I'll just quickly type in the English. Matzino. We find the Agadas Midrash Sefer Shmuel in the Midrash of the book of Shmuel. There are many different types. There's Sifri, there's Midrash Sifri, Agadas Midrash. There's different types of Midrash. So I just translated as in the Midrash of the book of Shmuel, rather than saying in the Agadas Midrash of the book of Shmuel. Gimel Mechalan Lahem, 3 people have forgiven to them. Avoinoi Sehen, their sins. Gershon is Gayer, a convert who converts. The Ha'ola Ligdola, and one who goes up to a high position. The Hanoisa Isha, and one who marries a woman. That's the mocker. So if we go back again, after the mocker, we have the next piece in the Rashi, and we need to look for the ha'ara, the comment, and we learn the reason from here, the reason for what I've taught the boys, the reason for why when a person gets married, his sins are forgiven, because we learned it from over here in our posuk, and that's what the mocker in Agadas Midrash Sefer Shmuel is referring to. How does he know that a person, when he gets married, has his sins forgiven? Because he bases it on this posuk with Esav, by the fact that she's called Machlas in Pashas Toldos. So we learn the reason of why when a person gets married is forgiven from over here, and we put that in. We'll just keep it really simple. That's number 3. That is the mocker. Sorry, not the mocker. That is the tam. That's the ha'ara rather. I'm getting a bit confused. One second, as I just move that up. Here's the ha'ara, and it happens to be number 3, which the ha'ara is number 3 there as well. It's the third section, as we can see. So we'll put that in. That's the third part. Oops. Try that again. Just rub that out. There we go. Ha'ara. Comment. Velomaratam mikan. And the reason is learned from here. Okay, and the final piece. After the ha'ara comes the teretz. That's the 4th section. The answer, after prefacing by all this, we say, therefore, Nikres Machalas, she is called Machalas Shinuchala Avanusav because his sins were forgiven. So now that we've deduced the fact that Agadas Midrash Sefer Shmuel bases himself on our posuk over here, because he says one who goes to a high position, one who converts, one who gets married, has their sins forgiven. That third item, one who marries a woman, he gets married, has his sins forgiven, and that's why that's why she's called Machlas, because Esav was forgiven. That's why, Esav's wife, Bosmas, is also referred to as Machalas. So we go over here, and we put that final answer in. That's 4, the final piece. Lakach, therefore, Nikres Machalas, she is called Machalas, Shenim Chalu Avoinoisov, that his sins, or because his sins were forgiven, that, we'll keep it literal, that his sins were forgiven. And that's it, and that's the whole Rashi, and that's the whole test. And that's what they need to do for the day when they're given this test. They have to fill it out like that. Thank you. And that's the end of the recording.